Did you know that 3.9 dogs and cats each year are killed from animal shelters? Hi, my name is Angelina Ficara, and I'm here to talk about why we should adopt from shelters rather than adopting from breeders. Imagine walking into an animal shelter and seeing all the loving dogs. You think they're all so cute, but these dogs are waiting for the day to be adopted. They are waiting for to be loved and feel like they belong somewhere. But little do they know, these are going to be the last few days of their lives. Now, think to yourself, how does that make you feel? To me, that makes me sad and upset. I don't think dogs deserve to die like that. And I'm going to assume most of you are going to agree with me. I believe that you should adopt dogs from shelters rather than from breeders. And I think this because by adopting a dog from a shelter, you're saving the life of him or her. By adopting from breeders, it's ultimately bad. When you adopt from shelters, you're saving the lives of the dogs in there. Most of these dogs are lost, abandoned, or given up on, and they're often put in there because they have nowhere else to go. By adopting from shelters, you save the life of your dog, the one that you're adopting, or future animals that are going in there. By adopting from shelters, you're also breaking the cycle of overpopulation. According to Caddington Post, out of all animals that are there, 90% of those animals are friendly and they are healthy. So, by adopting from animal shelters, it's more likely that there's going to be less dogs that are killed. And when you adopt them, there's less killed, and that's why we should stay adopting from shelters rather than breeders. Breeders, they're just killed, and when animals are in animal shelters for too long, they just kill them because there's no room for the new animals to come in. By adopting, you're also helping the cruelty in mass breeding areas. The female animals are taken and they are taken advantage of, and they are used to make mass amounts of animals. According to PETA, there's no such thing as a responsible breeder. Oftentimes, breeding facilities do not suit the needs of animals, and the animals are struggling there. They don't have any of the social needs, psychological needs, or behavioral needs that they need. They struggle, and it is unfair to do that to an animal. That's just cruelty. So, saying that, it honestly shows that adopting from a shelter is better than a breeder. 4.3 million dogs are born in mills each year, and only half of those will make it to at least 12 weeks. And that's because of the terrible conditions that they're living in. And that's why we need to put a stop to that. On the opposing side, people adopt from breeders for 3 reasons. And that the first reason being house training. When you adopt from a breeder, it's easier to train your dog, but when you adopt from a dog who has been abused and is coming from a shelter, it's harder to get them into the swing of things, so it takes them longer to train them. And that's ultimately why people tend to go to breeders rather than shelters, because they are too lazy to deal with the dogs and the animals that are harmed or needing help and they're struggling. Second, some people only adopt from shelters to get the satisfaction of feeling heroic. If that's the only reason why you're adopting from a shelter, then you shouldn't do that, because it takes a hard work and determination to take care of a dog from a shelter, because they need more love and support rather than a dog from a breeder where you can just train them and raise them like a normal animal. Lastly, the background of a dog from a shelter may not clash with their family. So there could be a dog who was abused by someone, and they don't like kids, they don't get along with kids because something in the past has caused them to feel traumatic. That is ultimately a horrible thing, and that's why people oftentimes choose breeders over shelters, because with a breeder you can train the dog to like kids, but with a dog who's had post-traumatic stress with kids or something that they don't like, for instance, like they don't like when people wear hoods, that could also be an effect in why it struggles for people. It is important to realize the good of adopting and how that outshines the bad of adopting. There's ultimately more good than bad, and by adopting from these shelters, you're saving the lives of many animals. You're saving the lives, you're breaking overpopulation, and lastly, you're stopping animal cruelty in mass breeding facilities. That should be enough for you to realize that you ultimately should be adopting from an animal shelter rather than a breeder. By adopting from animal shelters, you're going to be able to help reduce the number of animals that are killed each year, and that is why we should adopt from shelters rather than from breeders. Thank you.